So Kirk Cousins has been benched with the Atlanta Falcons opting to start their first-round rookie in Michael Penix Jr. However, I'm not so sure this is the end of Kirk Cousins for several reasons I'll get into in today's video. So I've got to talk about that, Kirk Cousins responding to him being benched, and more right after. Alright, so the Atlanta Falcons have finally had enough of the Kirk Chains experience, at least for now, because it was reported last night they are benching Kirk Cousins and they're going to be starting Michael Penix Jr. moving forward. And there's a lot to unpack here, so let's just get right into it. Starting with Kirk Cousins, we'll focus on Michael Penix Jr. here in a bit. But on the surface, it's not hard to see why they are making the change at quarterback, even though I'm not sure his future is over just yet, whether that's with the Falcons or somebody else next season. But before I worry about the future, let's look at the last 5 games and the reason why they are basically benching Kirk. He has thrown 1 touchdown and 9 interceptions in that span, in those 5 games, and they have gone 1-4 during that time. Before that, they were 6-3 with a multiple game lead on the Bucs in the division, but they've since belly flopped and are now 7-7 and have fallen behind Tampa, even though they did sweep the Bucs and have the tiebreaker over them. So the division is not lost, but many have been calling for Michael Penix Jr. to start for weeks now. And if you look at ATL's numbers, weeks 1 through 9, they were putting up nearly 25 points per game, turning the ball over 1.2 times per game on average, and were converting over 57% of the time in the red zone. From weeks 10 to 15, though, their points per game dropped to 14.4, their turnovers have gone up to 2 a game, and their red zone percentage has tanked all the way down to around 30%. All those metrics are bottom 5 in the NFL, and Kirk's 16 interceptions leads the league, which is kind of wild. So what on earth is going on here? Well, a lot of people are pointing to the fact that he tore his Achilles in late October of last year, and they're pinning that as a reason for the struggles, and honestly, I agree to some extent. I mean, he tore his Achilles nearly 2 months after Aaron Rodgers did, and on top of that, he tore his right Achilles, whereas Rodgers tore his left. So Rodgers' plant leg, the leg you push off when throwing, especially deep down the field, has been fine. That's the healthy leg. Meanwhile, Kirk's right leg is the one where the Achilles needed to be repaired. So some of what's going on there is most likely the Achilles still playing a role, whether people want to admit that or not. Kirk might not even admit that, but the evidence is there, and it's pretty clear. And then on top of that, the Falcons also just played 3 absolutely elite defenses. 3 of their last 5 games have been against the Chargers, Broncos, and Vikings. That's 3 of the top 4 scoring defenses who all allow 18 points per game or less. Then they are all elite at creating takeaways. The Vikings have 20 interceptions on the year, which leads the league. Then the Chargers and Broncos are tied for 4th with 14 interceptions apiece. So 3 of Atlanta's 4 losses in a row were against the best defenses in the entire league, and 7 of his 9 interceptions in that span came against those teams. Now, to be clear, I am in favor of the Falcons letting Cousins take a back seat and giving Penix a go. I am not some weird Kirk Cousins stan or fanboy. I think he's had a great career, hasn't showed up in the brightest of moments. Primetime Kirk is a real thing, but I do think it is time for them to give Penix a go. With that being said, though, I am still not sure Kirk's career is completely finished just yet. We all thought, for example, Russell Wilson was going to be finished, but he is thriving with the Steelers in a different system. Kirk is 36 years old. An injury like that to his Achilles is going to be a lot more challenging to come back from. Maybe he's never fully himself, but he will eventually at least get more confidence back in that leg. I mean, let's be honest here. Kirk's confidence started off rocky to begin with when not long after he signed that 4-year, $180 million deal with $90 million in guarantees with the Falcons. They then decided to take Michael Penix Jr. 8th overall. Cousins didn't even know they were looking at taking a quarterback and was shocked and disappointed by it when they called him to let him know on draft night that they would be selecting Penix. The move definitely surprised many because the Falcons not only had other roster needs to fill at the time, but because taking him 8th overall felt like a bit of a reach, especially when you consider the fact that they just signed Kirk Cousins to that huge contract. Penix is also a bit older at 24 years old and also has had 4 season-ending injuries in college. He tore his ACL in his right knee in 2018, then again in 2020. He also fractured his collarbone in 2019 and then had an AC joint separation in his throwing shoulder in 2021. Now, when he was on the field, he was awesome. He threw for over 9,000 yards and had 67 touchdowns his last 2 years at Washington, taking them to the national championship game last year. That's ultimately why he was a first-round pick. The talent is clearly there. He just needs to stay healthy. And honestly, it's not going to hurt to try and start this man, given the last 3 games they have is going to be against the Giants, then Commanders, then Panthers. The Commanders are a great team. The Panthers up, a little bit down lately. But the Giants, that is absolutely perfect to start Penix there. The division is absolutely still in play after all, so there's a lot on the line here, and Penix has been able to sit back and learn in the system, soak it up, and glean from a solid vet in Cousins for over 3/4 of the season. Now he's got a great opportunity to prove that he can be their franchise quarterback moving forward. They have a lot of playmakers on offense, from Pitts to Bijan Robinson, Drake London. All you need is to establish that run game and then be effective from the pocket. You don't have to be crazy. Penix has an arm, so let's get it going and see how Penix can do. The situation is obviously a little messy right now, but just look at the Denver Broncos. I mentioned Russell Wilson earlier. Everybody thought their franchise was going to be set back a few years after eating all that dead cap from Russell's contract, but then they drafted Bo Nix and have gone 9-5, and nobody's really even talking about that anymore. So the Falcons have a chance to maybe do something similar depending on how things go here. Did they mess up by signing Kirk? Possibly, but as I shared earlier, Cousins may not yet be finished after all. They also didn't know they were for sure going to be able to get Penix, and his health and durability is still in question, in my opinion. So for the rest of this year, Kirk Cousins is one expensive backup QB, but better safe than sorry. And if Penix wows the team enough, maybe Kirk Cousins would be willing to waive his no-trade clause if they found the right trade partner in the offseason. I mean, there are several teams that need a quarterback: Giants, Raiders, maybe the Jets, depending on Aaron Rodgers' future, the Browns, among others. There's also the possibility that Kirk says, "To hell with y'all." Well, he would probably say, "To heck with y'all." He would then play hardball and force them to release him and eat all that dead money, similar to the Russell Wilson situation. Kirk could then sign with any team for the minimum salary and still be getting paid a boatload of money from Atlanta. And while no team wants to just piss millions of dollars away, should be a little easier to stomach with your presumed new starting quarterback on a rookie deal and with him being your future. And before I get out of here, it is worth noting that head coach Raheem Morris of the Falcons said Kirk Cousins has handled this whole thing with class. Sure, he's disappointed, but he is here to do what he can to help Michael, and he's going to be in his corner. And then Kirk Cousins said he's going to be the best backup quarterback out there. He also said, yeah, it is what it is. He's not exactly super excited about it. He thinks the interceptions and everything that's gone on with him recently is not injury related, but more decision-making related, which is a little more concerning to me, to be honest. But he's also not going to say, hey guys, yeah, I'm not feeling the best right now. He's not going to blame it on physical limitations. He's going to take the criticism and critiques like a man, and maybe blaming it on the mental more than anything is probably correct. But there is some physical limitations there. There's gotta be. Anyway, with all that being said, let me know your thoughts on this entire situation. What do you think they are going to do with Kirk Cousins long term? And are you excited for the debut of Michael Penix Jr. against the Giants? Let me know all that in the comments down below. And with that, I'll see y'all next time.